if I want to get to where I want to go, and, I want to see if I can impact 1 million people. And I still don't know, like, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know,
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I'm going to calculate that. But when I first started talking about it, I said, I will know when it happens, it will show up somehow. Like, it will be presented to me somehow that it has happened. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but somehow it's going to pop up and go, yep, you can check that box now. So it started as
Welcome back, everybody, to another interview of what I love to call Baseball Family. My name is Mark Mashad Jr., and I'll be your host for this interview with Tyler Gillum. I'm excited to bring Tyler to you today. He's the head baseball coach of the Savannah Bananas of the Coastal Plains League, and he's an assistant coach at South Mountain Community College. Tyler has jumped at every opportunity that's ever come his way. He has a passion for absolutely connecting with as many people as he possibly can and impacting their lives. And we're going to get down and dirty with this interview. We're going to talk bull riding, we're going to talk beating the odds, and we're going to talk Banana Land baseball and how they combine an unbelievable fan experience with competitive championship flip the switch baseball. When I shot the email out to Tyler, I knew I was setting myself up for a special interview, but I had no clue that would go as deep as we did into his life and the obstacles and challenges that he's had. So, if you're ready, let's jump right in the saddle and get to an unbelievable interview with my man, Tyler Gillum.
I appreciate you, Mark. Hey, I'm pumped to be here. Thank you. Just humbled, and I'm honored to be on another podcast. It's awesome to be here, and that's one heck of an intro. So hopefully I can follow that up and give somebody some nuggets, that whoever listens to this podcast. So.
Absolutely, and I mean you've done awesome things. You are the assistant coach at South Mountain Community College. You're the head coach of the Savannah Bananas. And if that name doesn't make you want to go see a game, at the least, the product they're putting out is a trendsetter, and it's probably setting the tone for how summer collegiate baseball probably should be run. Outside of your coaching, I want to get an opportunity to kind of get your story, get the info out there. The little time that I've had to kind of converse with you, I can kind of sense a kinship in a lot of your beliefs and stuff like that. So why don't you kick it off with kind of where it all started, how it all started for you as a young kid growing up in Oklahoma?
Yeah, so small town guy from Oklahoma, Ada, Oklahoma. It's about 17,000 people there. Actually lived about 20 minutes outside of town in the middle of nowhere. Our driveway was about a half a mile long. It was all dirt roads. It was, you could do whatever you wanted out there. It was awesome opportunity to grow up. But small town, it's country. My grandparents owned a small ranch, so I grew up on that a lot. My dad's side of the family rodeoed a lot. They rode bulls and rode broncs, and they played a lot of music. Everybody kind of plays the guitar and the drums. And then on my mom's side, my mom was a cheerleader growing up, and she danced a lot. And that side of the family they were all baseball, basketball, football. So I kind of had the best of both worlds, for me, in my opinion, on both sides of my family, So I grew up rodeoing and playing baseball. Absolutely have loved baseball since I was little, and, used to rodeo a lot. And when I was about 10 years old, 12 years old, my favorite bull rider, one of the best bull riders of all time, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Mark. His name's Lane Frost. He's from Oklahoma, okay? And there's a movie that was made about him called 8 Seconds. It's my favorite movie. Okay, you should check it out if you haven't.
Absolutely, it's on
So
the list.
my dad used to go on the rodeo circuit and he would compete against Lane, and then this movie comes out, and so we go to the movies and watch this movie as a family, right? I'm like 10, 12 years old, and we go to the movie and we watch it, and at the end of the movie, it's Lane Frost's life story. So at the end of the movie, they're in Cheyenne at a rodeo, and he ends up getting horned by a bull. And at this time, this is before they wore helmets, before they wore chest protectors like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets horned by a bull in his back. It ends up puncturing a lung, and he dies in the rodeo arena, right? And so I'm 10 years old, 12 years old, and I've never seen my dad cry up until this point, right?
Mm.
And my dad starts crying in this movie. And so I'm like, I mean, it's a crazy experience for me. You know, I've never seen my dad cry. My dad's tough as nails. And we go to this movie, and I'm seeing my dad cry for the first time. Lane Frost passes away, and just iconic person in Oklahoma. And at that time, in that moment, I was in life, I was having to decide really if I was going to continue on the rodeo circuit and go to rodeos, or if I was going to play baseball, because they were kind of interfering with each other. So I remember thinking kind of at that time, you know what, I think I'd rather get hit by a 90-mile-an-hour fastball than horned by a bull, just because I had that picture of Lane Frost in my head, you know. So that's kind of how it started. To be honest with you, about 10, 12 years old, that's when I completely went all in with baseball. I played basketball too throughout junior high and high school, but like it was always baseball 24/7. I really didn't do too much else, just because I was completely obsessed 24/7. That's what I thought about. And so I was lucky enough to be at Latta High School growing up, and my head coach is Eddie Collins, who is one of the nation's winningest high school baseball coaches. You know, if Corona didn't happen, he was actually about to break the Oklahoma national record for wins with, like, I think the record is 2,115, and he stuck at 2,107. So unbelievable, right? So I got an opportunity to play for Coach Collins there. He pretty much changed my life. I grew up where we had to work our butt off. We didn't have a whole lot, it wasn't like, we had brand new cars, and like, I mean, there was times where we didn't have hot water and electricity, and we didn't have cable. And so, my parents, they worked their butt off. My dad tried to work his butt off and give us everything that he could give us. But, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she kind of drove us around to all the baseball games, and just so fortunate that like she was my number one fan, and she would drive me all over the places, make sure, I would get to practice. Not always on time. We had, there was always, she had a knack for being late. And I think that's why I hate being late now. But, how she dove in, and I've got 2 little brothers, and, she did everything for us, cook, clean, got her laundry done, everything. I mean, she worshiped us. So, like, I'm so fortunate of how much she loved us growing up and got us to baseball games, so on and so forth. And then, just being at Latta, we won 4 state championships at Latta, played for Eddie Collins, and really Coach Collins taught me how to compete, taught me how to work hard, taught me what really the intricacies of the game of baseball and strategies, and really how to win. That's what he's all about. So, so fortunate, and he changed my life. He really put my life on a different path of, hey, this is how you go about your business. If, really my story is my family, they've had a lot of problems with addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, in and out of jail. And I don't think if it wasn't for baseball, if it wasn't for Coach Collins, and I had other people that definitely played a role, but baseball and Coach Collins really put me on a path to a little bit straighter path. And, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you go about your business. This is how you're, how you become a man, and this is how you should do it. So, he pretty much saved my life. and I wouldn't be here talking to you. I wouldn't have any baseball. I'd probably be in jail somewhere if it wasn't for him. So just so thankful for the opportunity just to luckily play for Coach Collins at Latta. We won 4 state championships, played with some awesome guys. Went to Seminole State Junior College after that. It's one of the winningest junior colleges in the country. So I really learned how to just absolutely have to compete and be disciplined. That was the main thing I learned at Seminole. There was 43 guys on the roster when I went in that fall. Everybody told me not to go to Seminole because they're unbelievable talent and I wasn't as talented. So it was like we had 12 draft and follows that year. So Mark, if you remember the draft and follows, it was the fall of 2005. All right. So at that time, Major League Baseball had 50 rounds. And, if you were anywhere from 35 to 50, you just went to college, but you got drafted. And then that organization had your rights for the year,
Yeah.
So we had 12 guys that were draft and follows, right? I wasn't one of those, okay? We had 43 guys on the roster. I was probably number 42 out of 43 talent-wise. I had everybody telling me not to go to Seminole because I probably wasn't going to play. But I went to Seminole because of the history and the tradition of winning and being the best. And I knew if I went there, I would have to compete my butt off every single day. And it was at the end of 2 years, I was going to create the best version of myself. I knew that going there. There was a good chance I knew I wasn't going to play, but I wasn't going to I was going to actually prove everybody wrong because everybody told me I wasn't going to play. I was a middle infielder. We had the Junior Canadian National Middle Infield, all right, that came in with me. Josue Pele and Terrence Dayleg. They played on the Junior Canadian National team, okay? Both like 92 across the diamond, were unbelievable. They both had like 5-year pro careers, just stupid good. We had Sawyer Carroll, who got up to AAA with the Padres, and then there's Tyler Gillum, who has, he's an average runner. He cannot hit for power. He's got a BB gun for an arm. Like, I wasn't supposed to be there, right?
Well, I'm going to ask you this, though.
Yeah.
Did any of those guys get on a bull?
None of those guys got on a bull. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, you got to be legally insane to be on a bull, right?
Because we're going back to that. I've got a few notes that I've been writing down. So we're going to go. I want to unpack you being a bull rider.
Okay. It didn't last very long. I think I got smarter as I went, So bull riders are the most underrated athletes on the planet.
Well,
Nobody talks about, one, how insane bull riders are. Two, it's not if you get hurt, it's when and how bad.
Yeah.
And, there's no insurance. And if you win, especially back in the day, if you win, the prize money just gets you to the next 2 rodeos down the road, So, anyway.
Well, and you probably I didn't see this coming on this interview, but I spent about 9 years living in Walla Walla, Washington.
Yeah.
And I coached at Walla Walla Community College, and their school has been national champion rodeo many years and multiple years in a row. And so I actually have had the experience of walking at the Walla Walla Fair, going to the Pendleton Roundup, and experienced those. Just the opening ceremonies of the Pendleton Roundup may have been one of the absolute coolest things I've ever seen in my life. Any sport. I've been to the College World Series. I've been to Major League Baseball games. I've been all these places. When that thing kicks off at the Pendleton Roundup, I'm like chills. Horses are flying everywhere. People it is just crazy, right?
No doubt.
So I have had these experiences, and I've been ground level with a bull. And when I'm looking in that pen that they're holding all the bulls in, and they're getting ready to do the roping, they're getting ready, and I'm just standing there. I'm like, I cannot believe a human being is going to get on that.
You got to be legally insane. 2,000-pound bull. It's not happy you're on its back. How do we say it? Their ball sack basically wrapped up in a rope, so they're not happy about that setup, right?
Right.
And they're going to try to buck you off, and then they're going to chase you out of the arena, and then I mean, it's crazy,
And also
I mean,
too, kind of just to mention, like, the culture of bull riding, the human, the toughness that just, and I don't even want to say toughness that they have as getting on a bull and craziness of that, but like it's people who aren't gonna talk a big game, they're gonna bring
yep,
a big game,
yep,
you know.
there's no doubt
And
about it.
that's what you brought to Seminole, and you probably didn't even know it at that time. I'm guessing, but you had that awesome, upbringing and just culture in how you were raised. Um, I did also, I wanted to say I can definitely relate with getting late to practice with mom. I had many battles with my mom trying to go to youth football practice and being late, but though you're
Let
just
me
not
tell
going to
you
win
one
those.
story, Mark. I'll tell you one story about being late, and this has stuck with me my entire life. When I was in 10 and under, we were late. Now, again, we lived 20 minutes outside of town, so it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like, you're just going to get in your car and be there real quick. And, you know, it was always kind of just throwing stuff in the car. Let's go. We're going to be late. And so we ended up showing up late to this game one time, and we only had 8 players or 7 players. It was whatever the ruling was where you couldn't play a game unless you had this many players. So I was late. So I actually am running up the steps because there were steps to get to the field. And I'm looking behind home plate, and I see the umpire call the game right there. And we had to forfeit the game because I wasn't there on time. And that stuck with, like, that absolutely ripped my heart out. I was 10 years old. I cried my eyes out. I was so pissed off. And that experience has stayed with me my entire life. And that's why, like, I hate being late. Like, it's one of the, like, I set 4 alarms. I still set 4 alarms. Like, when I went to junior college, when I went to Seminole, and I kind of hang my hat on this because I think it's pretty unique, and there's not very many people that probably were able to do this, but I didn't want to be the guy that was going to cost our team to have to run or anything. But 2 years at Seminole, I was never late for a class. I never missed a class. I never missed a practice. I was never late for practice. In 2 years at Seminole, went to all my classes. I never missed anything, but it
You
was that
batted, so hold
structure
on,
at
you batted
Seminole.
1,000 in class.
100%. I wasn't very smart, so I had to go to class and at least find a way to get it done, right? If I was there, I was and I accidentally learned something. But I wasn't good enough to be the guy that could just miss class and then show up and coach is going to put me in the lineup anyway. Like, I had to do all those little things to get those opportunities. So I couldn't miss an opportunity. I couldn't, if there was an opportunity to me to get in the game, I couldn't risk it by, oh, Gillum, you're not playing today because your grades aren't good enough, or, you showed up late, or, you didn't do something right in class. So I had to do all of those little things, but it stemmed from that experience of letting my team down when I was 10 years old. We had to forfeit that game. Man, that ripped my heart out. And so, like, for today, I still set 4 alarms. Like, I hate being late. I hate being late. So anyway.
I kind of want to unpack you not missing a class now. Um, Think about it. Okay, let's associate. Like, I remember I went back at Eastern Connecticut where I went. Coach Halawadi would always preach bat 1,000 in the classroom, get to every class, just be there. And like, I had to learn this the hard way. Like, I learned because I was about to get a D in a class or fail a class, and I was like, man, I can't do, like, because the professor had a no rule. Like, you did not have to ever come to a class, but if you passed the mid-year and you passed the final, that was your
Yep.
grade. So I'm like, this is awesome.
Yep.
Well, once that mid-year comes out and I got an F in this class, I got to change something real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of, why I want to unpack not going to class, because just think of, like, winning every game
Mm-hmm.
in a season, like the intensity of focus that you have to have, and the ability to show up every single day that you
Yep.
have to have, like, there is not one game that you lost, right?
Yep.
And that's how I look at it with you batting 1,000 in the classroom. Like, what where else did that come from outside of the 10-year-old Little League game?
So I would say it would start with my my dad's dad, my grandpa, Deb Gillum. He is businessman through and through. I watched that man grow up. Like growing up, his daily routines. Like I see you've got Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss behind your left shoulder right there, and that is like that book breaks down the daily routines of all successful people that are in that book. And that was my grandpa. He showed up to work every single day until the day he was 87 and died. He went to work every single day. He could have retired. My grandma tried to get him to retire for 20 years, but that's what he did. He showed up every single day. He had a daily routine. He would go eat breakfast at the same little country breakfast spot every morning, 4:30 in the morning. He would read the newspaper and he would go to work. He believed his entire life he should give away 10% of his money to charities. He did right by other people. Like he was just a really good businessman. So like seeing that every single day, he went to work every single day. Like it didn't matter if you were sick, hurt, whatever it was, he showed up. So I think that it started there. That was a big piece of it. Going to LADA and playing for Coach Collins, he just taught you how to show up every day. Like it was, we practiced every day, even on Sundays. It was like an open hitting day. On Sundays we hit from 1 to 3. It was kind of show up when you want to. But the other 6 days we were there. It was always, hey, you've got to outwork everybody. That's the mentality it's always been. And then when I went to Seminole, like it just elevated that. Like their expectations at Seminole and how Seminole is structured, it just completely elevated that. It was, you're going to be the best in the world and you're going to fight everybody to get there. Nobody's going to outwork you. And they just set those standards. My head coach at that time is Eric Myers. He's one of the most, he's one of the craziest, scariest humans that you've ever seen. He's 6'5". He's got this goatee, right? Hardly talks, never smiles. And like, there's an expectation of just being great and outworking everybody. But like, he had a rule. I'll give you some, like, the rule was if you missed class or if you got in trouble, you ran 24 miles in 24 hours. All right. So first off, I didn't want to run 24 miles. All right. So that kind of set the standard there. But you know, he took everything to the next level. It's like, hey, you want to be great? You got to be great in everything you do. You know, it's all the little things. All the little things matter, and you got to compete every single day. And so he set that standard for me, right? And you know, Eric Myers did right away, and it was just you're going to compete every day, and this is the expectation of being great. You have to show up. So I was scared to death of being late to class, and I didn't want to be the guy. Because we ran all the time for guys being late, not showing up for class, right? And everybody hates that. You know how it is, Mark, in a team's like, Johnny's late, so we're all running laps for it. You know, I didn't want to be that guy. And I wasn't good enough to be that guy. So I wanted to be a leader in that standpoint. So I just kind of that was my expectations. But, man, like they really stretched me. Seminole stretched me to have that discipline. And that's why I say they taught me real discipline. So that's the most – still to this day, like I think I'm pretty disciplined, but that's the most disciplined I've ever been in my life, probably outside of 2015. But man, Seminole, like we had curfew at 9 o'clock. Like you couldn't go get something to eat. All right. Like if you left the dorm after 9 o'clock, you had 24 miles in 24 hours. That was because we lost our first inter-squad game. We worked out 3 days a week. The rule was you stay in here for 2 hours in this weight room. If you can turn the doorknob leaving the facility, then you haven't worked out enough. So that was the mentality. It completely changed me. It taught me that I could break down any wall that you put, anything you put in front of me, I'm going to absolutely be able to tear it down. Like it doesn't matter what it is. And that's why Seminole helped me become who I am, because they challenged me in so many ways. Seminole created guys that it didn't matter if you put the New York Yankees on the field. The expectation was you were going to go in there and beat those dudes. And that was like they broke down so many walls of if you didn't think you could do it, they were going to push you through it and you were going to do it. You got stretched so much. And one of the sayings at Seminole was, can't died. So, you hear people say, I can't do that. It's can't died. We had shirts that said it. Can't died. It was on a tombstone. Can't died, So that was just a mentality, man. And I just that's all of those little things from my grandpa, from, early humble beginnings of having to earn everything, and Coach Collins setting that foundation, and then Seminole just creating a structure of you're going to be the baddest human on earth, and you're going to press through everything. So anyway, that's some stories.
Two things from that. Coach Collins, and you've kind of already answered this, but like, was it kind of watching how he was and what he did and how he did things that changed your life, or was there like things he said to you?
Yeah, it was the way I explain it best is his daily actions, like how he showed up. It was always, you respect everybody, but you fear no one. It was actually Coach Collins is saying that, like, I don't care if that's the New York Yankees in the other dugout. They're human just like you are. If you cut them open, they're going to bleed. If you put on, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. So you show up and compete. So don't ever put anybody on a pedestal like they're good enough. And then don't ever take into effect that, there's, you respect everybody. Anybody can beat you on the field any single day, but he showed up every single day. Coach Collins showed up every single day working on the field. Like, we worked on the field for 2 hours every single day. And his thought process behind that is, if a scout shows up and they're going to recruit Latta baseball players, that they're going to show up and their first impression is going to be, what does this field look like? And we don't have, it's small town Oklahoma. We work on the field. There's no, maintenance crew or any of that. We do all of it. And his thinking behind that was, if a scout shows up, the first impression is, what's this field look like? And if it looks like crap, then that means you don't work very hard. But if this thing looks pristine, then like, hey, these guys take they take pride in what they do. And it might not be the best, but it's what we got, and we're gonna take care of it the best we can. So it was his daily actions, and he'd tell you, boys, I'll work you to the bone. Like, we'd be working on the field, like, you guys can't outwork me. He'd challenge every one of us. You guys can't outwork me. So, yeah, it was his daily actions more than anything.
And when you were at Seminole, like, I love this stuff. It's very, very awesome stuff to hear. When you were at Seminole, did you ever have that, why am I doing this, that moment? Like, when you're going through hard things, you're kind of, you always have that little piece that pops in your head, like, I don't have to put up with this, or I'm going to try something different. Did that ever pop into your head when you're doing any of those exercises, and how did you get over that, if it did?
Yeah, so, like, it challenged you, where you were always having to figure out positive self-talk. Like, that's really what you learned of, like, man, I can get through this. It taught you to learn to get through this, that what your brain's actually telling you is not the truth. It's bullcrap. Your body can take more than what's actually going on in that moment. But I always had the big telescope goal of I was going to prove everybody wrong. Like, I always played the underdog card. Like, nobody was going to outwork me. If we were going to run, I was going to try to be the fastest. I was going to try to be the first. And that stemmed because I just always felt like, I wasn't good enough in a lot of different ways. And I had to press through some of those things. When we were going through some of those workouts, like, we had 5 a.m. morning weights, and that's at Seminole. That's every baseball player that's ever played at Seminole State Junior College is connected through morning weights. And that's 5 a.m. workouts at the facility, and you basically go through hell for about an hour. It's a big circuit, but we're all connected through that. And you really find out in the moment what you're made of and what you can do, and who really wants it or not, And I always saw this. Players that struggled during morning weights, they had the worst self-talk. They always, I hate morning weights. I hate working out. Man, why do we got to get up this early? They would come up with excuses. And my goal every morning, like I want to win. I've always wanted to, we won 4 state championships in high school. Like I've always just wanted to win. And in order to win, you got to work the hardest. So that's always been my thought process. I mean, when I was 12 years old, we got 3rd in the state championship. We got this mid-sized trophy. We didn't get the big trophy because we didn't get first. And I was so damn pissed. When I got home, we had this little ledge. I threw my trophy up and I hit it with a bat in over this, like into this dumpster area that we had close to our house, like into the woods kind of. And I was so pissed off that we got 3rd place. Like that's always been, I hate losing. So when we're going through all of that, my mentality is like, I am priming myself to compete against the best. And, you know, there was times like, man, this sucks. And I think you have to have those times. You have to be challenged like that to really get to be the best version of yourself, you know? So, you know, morning weights does that to you. It's going to find you to your very core of who you are and what you can do. And what you really start finding out is you can do more than what you actually think. But that's how we're all connected at Seminole is those morning weights. Even the coaches, like if you are, let's say, Mark, you go take a job at Seminole State right now, first day in October, we got to do morning weights. Your butt's doing morning weights with the team because that's initiation. Like you got it. Everybody's connected through morning weights. That's cool.
That's wild. And kind of moving on from Seminole, talk about your time at East Central.
So I went to East Central after Seminole. They gave me the best scholarship, kind of like I alluded to. Like we didn't have a whole lot of money. We were full financial aid. I'm also Native American. I've got Chickasaw and Choctaw Indian in me. So I went there because I couldn't go to a school that was going to give me 25%. My parents didn't have the money. Like when I got my financial aid check money, I would have to give them money to pay bills. And I was paying for my rent in my apartment. I had a little 1-bedroom apartment that was probably like 400 square feet. It was tiny, but it was only like $250 a month, you know? So it was perfect. I didn't need anything more than that. But I paid for that myself. I paid for all my food. It allowed me, you know, to live basically and play. But it was going back to my hometown. It is my hometown. And growing up, like we had really, like all the guys we played Legion baseball with in the summer, like we had some really good players. One summer, I think we were like 42-7 in Legion baseball. But we had really good players that went and played at other junior colleges across Oklahoma and Texas. And then the saying was always, if you don't get a really good Division I scholarship, with my close buddies was like, we don't get a really good Division I scholarship, let's all just go back to East Central and let's try to grow East Central. You know, like the tradition at East Central isn't great. Their facilities aren't great, you know. So it was like, hey, you think we can go take this thing on and we can turn this thing around? So I kind of just tried to start recruiting my sophomore year at junior college. Like, hey, if we don't get this D1 scholarship, let's go there. So I went to East Central and made a little bit of money to go there. And I also went there because I knew as soon as I finished playing, I could jump onto the coaching staff and become a grad assistant, because they had a GA position and they had a master's of education that I could take that and they would pay for my school for those 2 years. And I always knew I was going to coach baseball. Like I've never wanted to do anything else, but I knew if I got my master's degree, that would allow me it would open up more doors for me to teach at college. And I knew a lot of baseball coaches didn't make very much money early. So if I could get into the classroom, that could kind of feed my habit of going to the baseball field every single day and throwing BP and hitting ground balls and coaching. So that was always the plan. I was going to go to East Central, play 2 years, and I was going to be able to make money doing that. But I was also able to hop onto the coaching staff right after and be a GA. They don't have a full-time paid assistant, so you get all the responsibility in the world, and get my master's degree, and that was going to open some doors for me. So that was kind of the thought process of going to East Central.
Awesome. And so then, you know, you're building yourself, you're growing, you're coaching, I can definitely associate with just going after opportunities and jumping out on and trying to get things. You must, it seems like just you, with your path and how you chose to move out to Arizona, I was kind of curious what kind of led to that. Did you have anything that kind of made you kind of maybe want to stay at home and coach around home, or like what was going through the head there?
So you're about to get some stories that not very many people have heard. These are some good inside stories, Mark. So you're alluding to a lot of good stories here. Great questions. So after I finished at East Central, after 2 years, I graduated with my master's degree.
Yeah.
And I knew after that I was going to have to do something different because we didn't have a full-time paid assistant at East Central. So at that time, I was dating a chick. We were engaged. We were going to get married summer of 2011. So that was the spring of 11 was my last year at East Central. So we were trying to figure out if we were getting married in the summer, where were we going to go? At that time, she was into fashion marketing, and we're in a small town. So like she couldn't find a job there. So one thing, she kind of pushed me to find a bigger city. So we looked at Dallas, Austin, and Pheonix. And then when I was at Seminole, we had spring break. We played at South Mountain Community College, where I coach now, during spring break when I was at Seminole. So I had a connection with South Mountain. I loved Pheonix. When we went to Pheonix to play when I was in college, those were the two best weeks. My freshman and sophomore spring breaks were the two best weeks I ever hit in college, ever. Like I just blacked out and got hit somehow. So anyway, I always just loved Pheonix, and it was baseball heaven for me. So at that time, I was like, I want to move to Pheonix. I want to go where I can make the most connections. I can learn. Like the weather is baseball heaven. You can watch baseball every single weekend here. So I would be connected to every level. I love junior college. And so I got connected at South Mountain. And how it ended up happening was I said, all right, in 2 weeks, I'm going to drive out to Pheonix, and I'm going to interview with anybody that will interview with me. So I sent emails out to every coach in the Valley of Pheonix, right? There is 8 of us junior colleges that have baseball, 7 Division II junior colleges, and 1 Division I. South Mountain was the only one I had the most connection with. So I wanted to be at South Mountain. It was right in the middle of Pheonix. Send emails out. I got responses from 3 coaches. One of them was Coach Todd Easton, our head coach now at South Mountain. And I said, hey, I'm driving out in 2 weeks. If you have an opening for an assistant coach, would love to sit down with you and see if it's a fit. And so he said, yeah, I've got a spot open. Would love to interview you. So I drove 17 hours out from Oklahoma straight. I had about 74 coffees and was drinking Red Bulls. And like I was cross-eyed trying to get to Pheonix. I got to Pheonix at 4 a.m. Ended up going to interview the next day. I remember walking into South Mountain in the summer at that time. It's like 115 degrees. And for some reason, they didn't have the air conditioner on inside the building. So me and Todd Easton are sitting there talking for 2 hours about baseball. I'm sweating bullets. And ended up like we just hit it off. Like he had a really good connection with my coaches at Seminole State. And my coaches at Seminole State ended up putting in a good word for me. And me and Todd just kind of we've got a lot of the same philosophies. We got a lot of the same thought processes. And he was like, yeah, sounds good. So I interviewed with 2 other guys. Anyway, 2 days later, get back in my car, drive 17 hours straight home, another 74 coffees, make it home. On the way home, get a phone call. And Todd says, hey, I want to offer you the job. I lost my hitting guy. I want you to come in, be my hitting guy. And but I don't have any money for you. And so I'm like, that's all right. Like I've worked on baseball fields my entire life. Like I think I got a Gardner degree playing for Coach Collins, right? We worked on the field at Latta High School probably more than we've actually practiced. So it's amazing that we were that good. Our field's phenomenal, still phenomenal. So anyway, so I was like, I've worked field maintenance my entire life. Like, I'm not scared to work. So he's like, well, you know what? I think there's a field maintenance spot open. Let me make a call. So I took this field maintenance job. I worked 4:30 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. And then I would go take a shower at the school, and then we would have practice from 2 to 6. I'd drive 30 minutes home in Arizona Pheonix traffic, and I would start eating dinner, and I would fall asleep eating dinner in my plate. Like my face would fall asleep eating dinner at like 7:30 at night, and then I would just do it all over again. And then on the weekends, I would recruit. So I was making $9 an hour, working field maintenance with a master's degree, working 16-hour days, not making $1 to coach baseball. Actually, I take that back. I had $1,000 stipend for the year. Okay, phenomenal.
That's big money.
I was loaded. All right. So I really learned to pinch pennies together. Like I was really eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, ramen noodles, so but that's kind of how I grew up too, so it wasn't that big of a deal. So a lot of coaches that go through that grind, they're like, I'm not making any money or anything. It's like, I've been doing this thing my whole life, so it's not that big of a deal to me. But anyway, I was doing my passion. So the side story a little bit, when I moved to Pheonix, I ended up getting married and we moved to Pheonix. So it's another story for another podcast, but we were together for 6 months. It just didn't work out. She kind of got caught up in the big city, and like I was working all the time, and ended up some things happened, and I ended up having to pack my bags, and I said, hey, I can't handle this anymore, and I've got to, it was one of the it was 3 months of my life that's like one of the darkest moments in my life, because I had to I was working a lot. I was trying to make ends meet. I was trying to make my dream happen. I was trying to be a newlywed, and I would try to come home and cook, but it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough communication from my part. Ended up caught her doing some things, and I said, hey, I didn't want to be divorced. I wanted to do everything I possibly could to, stick that thing out. But it just got to the point where, like, hey, I don't control this anymore. Like, this is all out of my control. I'm trying to do, I'll do anything and everything to make this thing happen. It's not working. So I went to the ABCA in January of 2012. She went with me. Ended up, we hung out with some buddies. We were trying to make it work on our way home, 5-hour drive from LA to Pheonix. It basically kind of came to a head and was like, hey, she's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And I'm like, all right, well, I can't keep putting myself through this. So I'm packing my bags. I'm done. So I lived in my truck for 2 days. I had no friends in Pheonix. I just moved there. I was working 16-hour days, had zero money, lived in my truck for 2 days, trying to figure it out. And then just luckily, one of the coaches on staff, on basketball staff at South Mountain, he was an Oklahoma guy, and he calls me up one day, right? He's like, Gillum, this is 2 days in of me living in my truck. And he's like, Gillum, he's like, what are you doing, dude? You want to go to the movies? And I'm like, well, like probably, me and old girl, we're just not together right now. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, and I didn't want to tell him. I was embarrassed, I was embarrassed. So he's like, well, what do you mean? You're living in your truck? Dude, you're moving in with me. And I'm like, his name's Davin Bowe. He coaches at Butler Community College in Kansas right now, men's basketball coach. Godsend. Love that guy. So anyway, he's like, you're moving in with me, dude. And I'm like, I have no money. I have zero money. I'm still paying for her apartment.
Yeah.
She has, she's making ends meet. I'm not going to just not pay bills and put her on the street or anything. I don't care what she did to me. Like, I'm not that type of person. So I'm making money. I'm paying for an apartment I'm not living in, and Davin lets me move in with him, and I lived there for 6 months. And, it was one of the worst things I've ever been through, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because if that moment didn't happen, then I wouldn't have coached summer baseball that first summer in Myrtle Beach. I wouldn't have got a chance to go to the Texas Collegiate League and coach with two of my best friends now. I wouldn't have went to the Cape to coach. And then I'd never been to the Bananas. And then me and you probably never had this conversation right here, you know. So it was one of the darkest, rough spots in my life. But it got me to some places like I got married in October. Again, we got a little kid on the way.
Nice.
We're 18
Congratulations.
weeks in. So, and my wife now is an absolute rock star. Love her to death. And I couldn't be happier, you know. So if I didn't go through those crappy times, like moving to Pheonix, you know, working 16-hour days, going through all that, living out of my truck, like, you know, tough times don't last, tough people do. And
Dude.
Coach Collins ingrained that into my brain growing up. And
Yeah.
funny thing is, I talked to Coach Collins a week ago, and he was talking about quarantine. He was talking about us, you know, going through this situation of quarantining and coronavirus. And, you know, I hadn't talked to him in probably a year, and he said, "Hey, that's what us Latta boys do, isn't it? Tough times don't last, tough people do. We'll come out on the other side of this." And the Seminole and Latta prepared me mentally and physically to be able to go through that moment in my life and be able to come out on the other side of it better.
Let me tell you, thank you for that honesty. It's not easy to do. And for sharing that, you know, like that was, that's deep. You know, we've had a 1-hour phone call, and for you to kind of bear like that, man, that's some real man stuff. And that's,
hey, you got that out of me, Mark. I've never,
dude,
like, not very many people, I've never told anybody that on a podcast. Not very many people know that story. I just kind of keep that in my pocket.
hey, man. And I appreciate that. That is, you know, I was just, what was I reading a book, Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like what, like the Latin root terms of confidence, and comparing lobsters and how the male lobsters have confidence and they display things. And really what confidence is just a willingness to expose yourself. Right. And you know, that's what you just did, is you gave us everything that you've been through, and the dark time of your life, which in true Latta Seminole Tyler Gillum fashion, you took a negative and turned it into a positive. Moving from that, and you know, you've been all a part of toughness, and that your story is inspiring. It's awesome. You kind of touched on summer ball. Like, I mean, really, like the first thing that came, like, I'm like, all right, I want to interview some summer ball coaches, because I've coached in summer ball.
Yeah.
I really valued my relationships that I built with kids in summer ball.
Yeah.
I truly value the guys I coached with in summer ball.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience that I got to get as somebody who is a coach of this team that everybody loves, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to find some summer ball guys. Well, I mean, I've been listening about Savannah Bananas, about Tyler Gillum, and what you guys do for years now, or a couple years. And I was like, I'm going to reach out to these guys. Bing, you know, a couple of guys I know, and some, I did not know you until you responded to my email saying, hey, I would love to tell your story. I'd love to talk to you. I love what you're doing. Right.
Yep.
And you, shot right back to me. Let's do it. And can you talk a little bit about Savannah Banana baseball and Tyler Gillum as their coach?
It's really hard to explain unless you're there, but I'm going to do my best. I'm telling you, this place is unique. It's one of the most special places on earth. It's how a lot of people explain Savannah is it's a circus and then a baseball game breaks out. So it's such a special place because it brings in so many different types of people, fans-wise. from a player's standpoint, there's videos on YouTube where you can go watch, and they all say this is the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. And if you look, our owner's Jesse Cole. He played college baseball. He actually coached in the Cape one summer, and he's been running baseball teams, summer baseball teams for 10 summers now, I think. And his journey is awesome too. And what he's created is something really special, and I'm humbled to be able to be a part of it and be able to go there every summer and really impact all the fans that we're able to impact. And that's the goal. If you get on the Savannah Bananas website, you'll see it. It says we make baseball fun. And when me and Jesse first started talking, this was in September of 2017, we were talking about me coming on to, it's kind of the interview process. And, he loves to read. He listens to a lot of podcasts. He has his own book. It's called Find Your Yellow Tux. He wears a yellow tux every single day, not just on game days. Every single day of his life, he wears a yellow tux, like the guys that are on Dumb and Dumber. Like, you got Jim Carrey in his blue complete suit with the top hat. Like, that's Jesse, but in yellow. Okay. Every single day. He's the guy in the yellow tux. So he wrote a book called Find Your Yellow Tux. It's about standing out in the crowd, about standing out, instead of standing still and being different. And that's what the Bananas are about. We do things that are outside of the norm. But if you look at us from our very core, the roots of what the Bananas are about is what really got me and Jesse on the same page. When we first talked, we talked a lot about books, and we talked a lot about podcasts, and we talked about what we both wanted goal-wise. And his goal was to change baseball. He wanted to make it the most fun experience for all fans and all players. That's his goal, is to change baseball, make it the best experience possible from the entertainment standpoint, from the baseball standpoint. And so he wanted to have fans come to the game and be entertained. There's so many fans. Like, you look at MLB statistics right now, and the numbers of fans are declining. You see fans leave early, like 6th, 7th inning all the time. They never stay to the 9th inning. So that's like a problem with baseball. And he's trying to find ways to solve that problem. So if you come to our baseball games, what you'll see is this. I'll try to run you through the entire process here. If you bought a ticket online, you would buy a general admission ticket for about $20. It's all you can eat, all you can drink, hamburgers, hot dogs, popcorn, soda, water. When you get there, after you order that ticket, okay, you will get a phone call from somebody in our front office thanking you for buying a ticket and coming to a Savannah Bananas game. Okay. You will figure out you need to show up early to get a good seat. So gates open at 5:30 and it's open seating. So there's no standard seating. So if you want a good seat, you have to show up early. And we've sold out 88 straight games dating back to 2016. And we hold a little over 4,000 fans a game. I think our average last summer was it's like 4,200. 4,200 was like our average. All right, we were second in the country in attendance. All right, and this is in 26 games. So you show up at 5:30, you get in, all right, and the ticket line goes really quick. All right, the ticket that you get at the will call is scratch and sniff, so you smell it and you remember it. Okay, you cannot buy a ticket at the will call. All right, tickets are all sold out. There's people in Savannah that have never been to a Savannah Bananas game because they didn't get tickets ahead of time. Okay, so you can't buy a ticket at the gate the day of. It does not happen. It does not exist. So you'll walk in, and what we do is have 5 players on the concourse. Okay, so I have a script from 3 o'clock. All right, so I have a script for all the players and all the coaches from 3 o'clock all the way to 10:30 when the game ends, okay? And it has everywhere you need to be, when you need to be there, and how you're going to do it, okay? And we basically take all the jobs for that night. We plug those jobs in of what we're going to do, and then we take the roster and all the players, and we plug those guys into what their jobs are going to be, okay? So when they show up, they'll show up let me backtrack a little bit. Our players will show up at 3 o'clock. We will have early work from 3 to 4. Majority of the time that's optional, but I try to recruit guys that love to work because that's what I love to do. And I want guys that want to be in pro ball. So you better show up and work. So it's optional, but they show up 3 to 4. And then from 4 to 5, we have BP. And then at 3 o'clock, they start reading that script, right? So if you walked in, Mark, and you walked in at 3 o'clock, you would be reading the script of what's going on, all right? And you would figure out, like, okay, I've got to do – these are my jobs. So you can create your daily routine and schedule what you need to do to prepare for the game around this daily routine, okay? And so you would show up for the game 5:30, okay? We would be just getting off the field as players. After BP, they would change, and then we would start entertaining fans, okay? Our players would start entertaining fans. That starts with 5 players on the concourse. So as soon as you walked into the gate, Mark, you would walk in. We would have 5 players and what we call H3. H3 is our system, okay? High fives, handshakes, or hugs. So every time a fan walks in, it's either a high five, a handshake, or a hug. What's going on? How you doing? Thanks for coming to the game. All right, and we give them a program. Here's the program for the night. Okay, so all the fans, think about this. If you're a 10-year-old kid, you get to meet all the players you're about to watch on the field. All right, think about that. All right, there's so many stories I have from that. That's 7 other podcasts of stories that I could tell you about little kids telling their story about being so jacked up they got to meet Bill Leroy and Alex Dancing Deegan and Mike Williams and all of our other guys that have played for us. So anyway, you walk in, you get to meet the players, you go get your free popcorn, you go get your hot dog, you go get your soda, and then you go try to find an open seat that's good so you can watch the game. And the game starts at 7, okay? So we'll have our players scattered all over the stadium connecting with fans, okay? From 5:30 until 6:45, every 15-minute increments, I have 5 different players that go onto the concourse and greet fans. So everybody does it. So it's basically first 5 players, second 5 players, third 5 players, every 15 minutes, okay? And it's mapped out a lot on really who's going to start that game that night from a position player standpoint and what pitchers are hot that night. So if you're not playing that night, if you're a pitcher that's not hot that night, like you're doing a lot of the entertainment.
Right.
So we look to have the best entertainment situation, but we also want to have the best development situation in summer collegiate baseball. So we try to marry these two because I want a dog pile, I want to win, I want to develop guys, and Jesse wants to create the best entertainment in sports. So we're going to marry these two, and that's what I think a lot, you've coached summer baseball. That's what I think a lot of GMs and owners and managers and coaches, they don't mesh that well on those things. And, Jesse and I and the front office staff and our coaching staff have been able to marry those things really, really well and basically try to create the best case scenario to win on both of those. I want to have the best fans. I want to have the most fans. And I want to win a championship at the end of the year. So,
can I ask a quick question on that?
Hit me.
Is Jesse? I'm gonna imagine he's kind of on the same page with you on winning, or like, what's his take on the on-field stuff? And this just
Not really.
I just thought.
Not really. To be honest with you, he absolutely never asked me. Like, we're expected to win, but me and him never really talk about it. Like, he wants to make, like, this is how he looks at it. And this is him learning to become a great leader at the top and let people do their job. His job is to put on a show for the fans. He hired me to do a job to recruit the players, recruit the right type of players that fit into our environment, and then go win the baseball game. But he never talks to me about winning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he talks to me about, like, we need to have the best experience for the fans. That's his thought process. Yeah. All right. My thought process is I need to figure out how to win this game. But at the same time, we can do so many things that can impact every fan that comes to the game.
Right.
And I don't know if I told you this yet, but in 2017, I set a life goal. At this time, it was like a New Year's resolution But I set a life goal to have a positive impact on 1 million people through baseball, education, and exercise. And so when me and Jesse started talking about, me taking over as the manager for the Savannah Bananas, this entire thing, like my life goal, Savannah Bananas was kind of a magnet. Like, you need to go do this because there's going to be 4,000 fans at each game. And, 1,500 of those are probably going to be little kids, and you can impact those kids in the future. And so that was a big piece to that. And so when me and Jesse are talking, like, we just had the same thought process of, we want to create never forget moments every single night for fans. When they walk away, your customers are your best marketing strategy you can ever have in any business. They're going to go tell the story to their best friends. You'll never guess what happened at the Savannah Bananas game. We had a dancing first base coach. We had a senior citizens dance crew. We had a summer Santa in a Volkswagen. The coaches did a dance on home plate. The players did a choreographed dance in the middle of the fourth inning. They wore kilts at a baseball game. You create these never forget moments, and then your customers become your marketing. You don't have to pay for marketing if you create a never forget moment experience. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's why the company is really called Fans First Entertainment. It's about taking what fans want, create that, and just give them what they want every single night. And so Jesse's created that environment, and I'm just awesome to be, I'm just pumped, excited to be a small piece of it and try to, add in a couple things, sprinkle in a couple things on the baseball side and create the culture on the baseball side so our guys can develop in baseball, but also learn to mature and learn to play in front of 4,000 fans and grow and be better men when they leave.
And just kind of looking at that system, it probably takes a lot of because in summer ball you can get some guys that come in and they think they're they got a big ego, right?
Sure.
That's got to take a lot of the ego out of the players, I'm guessing. And also too, you're finding guys that fit the mold of what you're looking to do. I know that's a big part of it.
Let me tell you a couple stories. The first summer there was a kid from Georgia. His name's Logan Moody. Okay. And Georgia kid, Power 5. Everybody knows who he is. And I don't know all the details of this story, but Jesse tells the story really well. So the first game the Bananas opened, they had a big family that came to the game. And before the Bananas happened, it was the Sand Gnats. It was a minor league baseball team. So anyway, this family, it was their tradition to come to the game every single year, right? Mm-hmm. And so they were there on opening night, but now it's the Bananas, and they're sitting in the stands, and Jesse goes throughout the entire stadium and meets fans and high fives fans and gets to know fans. And he's up in the stands and he runs into this lady and she said, "Hey, I love what you guys are doing. Thank you guys for doing this. My husband used to come to all the Sand Gnats games. This was our tradition to come to opening night. And so we're here together as a team or as a family in memory of him. He passed away this year, and we ended up coming to opening night. And we were looking at your program, and we noticed on the roster you have a kid on your team named Logan Moody, and just so happens to be my husband's name is Logan Moody." I'm choking up telling this story, dude. So ends up, she's like, "Is there any way that you could get his autograph for me?" So Jesse goes down to the dugout and tells Logan the story, and Logan signs this ball, and Logan's like, "I don't want you to go give it to her. I want to go up there and give it to her." So anyway, he goes up there and, gives her the baseball and, "Thank you so much for coming to the game. I'm sorry for your loss," and that whole thing. But man, that story chokes me up every time I tell it, because it's experiences that, like, every baseball team in the country can have those experiences with their fans if they take the time to get to know every fan that walks into the gate. And that major league field, you got 50,000 people that are coming to games or
Right.
whatever it is. Yes, it's hard to do, but if you create a culture where the usher in the stands has autonomy to hear the little 5-year-old say, Daddy, I want to go onto the baseball field. And that usher can come to the dugout and say, Coach Gillum, there's a 5-year-old that wants to play catch with Mike Williams. Can he come down? And I'm like, heck yeah. Take his butt out there in the outfield. Tell Mike he's got a new teammate for the day. And, those things happen every day. Mike Williams is another story. He was an outfielder for us. He's from Texas. He plays at Corpus Christi, Texas A&M, and one of the best humans on the planet. Banana through and through. So he played center field for us, one of the best hitters in the CPL last year. And he started doing this tradition. It's a tradition for us now this past year where little kids would come up and say, Mike, can I have your autograph, right? And he would say, no, all right, I got to have your autograph first. So only if you'll give me your autograph is how he would say it. He's like, Mike, can I get your autograph? And he'd say, only if you'll give me your autograph first. And so they started signing his hat. And what he ended up doing is he would have a white arm sleeve, okay? And he started wearing this white arm sleeve every day. So all these little kids would start signing their signature. And, it's a 5-year-old, it's just scribbles, And they were so jacked up about it, and they would come back to back games, they would come back a week later and they'd be like, Mike's got his autograph on my arm. Those are the never forget moments I'm talking about. And there's so many more. There's so many special people like that, like Logan Moody, like Michael Williams, that are part of the Bananas because Jesse's created that culture of we want to create never forget moments every single night, because for us, it might be our 47th Savannah Bananas baseball game, but for somebody, it's their first game. So we want to make it something they'll never forget.
I mean, the Logan Moody story, if I'm sitting down watching a movie and I see that happen on TV, I'm like, this is just too much. They've gone too far. I don't believe this would never happen in real life. And here it is happening at your summer game. And then it goes to the signing of the arm sleeve is like, it's one of those things, like if you tried, if the owner, if Jesse came in and said, every player has to get a signature from a kid and, we'll put them on their helmets and stuff like that. If you tried to make that part of the culture, like nobody would buy, like people would have a hard time buying into it. But when it happens organic, like the kid is just an awesome kid, your center fielder, and it happens organically and it just goes out there and happens. And then bam, you've got this whole culture changing event that just came from an awesome kid.
Yeah. And it really just stems from Jesse creating the vision of we want to have never forget moments, and everybody has autonomy to figure out how to make that happen. Like if you see somebody drop Dippin' Dots, like go down to the Dippin' Dots stand, get them Dippin' Dots and bring it back to them. Like if you see trash on the ground, pick it up. There's so many stories. We've got Reginald Horton's another story. Okay. He's a 42-year-old man. He's about 6'5". Okay. He has been a janitor at the stadium for a long time. So when the Bananas came in, he was there before the Bananas, but when the Bananas came in, he kept calling the stadium saying, hey, Jesse, Emily is Jesse's wife. They're both owners. Okay. So it'd be like, Emily, I want to work for the Bananas. And Reginald has an autism. Okay. He's 42. He's phenomenal, but he has an autism. But he's one of the best workers and people I've ever been around. And he leads by example every single day. So anyway, the story is he keeps calling, right? He calls in October, right? They don't even have a name for the Savannah Bananas yet. They haven't came up with the Savannah Bananas yet. And, hey, I want to work for the team. And they're like, hey, we're not hiring yet. We'll hire in like March or whatever. So just call back then. And he's like, okay. Next week calls. Hey guys, I want to work for you guys. Same story, we're not hiring yet. All right. So next week, 2 weeks later, calls again. So he's relentless. Okay. We call him the legend. He's nicknamed himself the legend, by the way. Okay. Just paint this picture. All right. So March rolls around. They end up hiring Reggie. And Reggie is one of the maintenance guys on the field. He's kind of the custodian, and he goes around the stadium, picks up all the trash bags, and he has a cart. So everybody knows who Reggie is because he has this cart he's pushing around the stadium. He's 6'5". He's smiling from ear to ear. And if you see him, it's always great day for baseball. Coach Gillum, great day for baseball. And let me paint the picture for you on this. He walks about a mile to the bus stop, gets on the bus, takes the bus stop to the field every home game. He's there about 4 hours early. Okay, he makes his special Reginade. Okay, that's his special drink for the Bananas. He calls it Reginade. Okay, that's the drink of the Savannah Bananas. All right, and so he makes that for us. He hangs out in BP. I started taking him on road games. You know, so like there is a certificate that the Bananas give now. It's basically like the Reggie certificate. It's basically making the best of every moment is basically what it is, right? So this is what happened. So the first summer I'm there, like I know who Reggie is, but like we don't hang, like I don't see him a whole lot. The second summer, he starts calling me. All right, you ready for this? He's calling me, Coach Gillum, I want to go to Macon. I'm like, what? And he's like, I want to go to the game. I've never been to Macon. I want to go to the game. I'm like, all right. And he said, did you ask Jesse? And I'm like, I'll ask him. I'm sure he'll be good with it. So just like he did at getting hired for the job, he calls me like every 2 weeks. Coach Gillum, I want to go to Macon. I'm like, you're in, buddy. I've got, hey, on the list. I've already made out the travel list. You're on it, big dog. So rolls around. He goes to Macon with us. He shows up. We put him in he's got like 60 pairs of Jordan shoes. He loves shoes, okay? So he wears like matching yellow and blue shoes. He's got them in his like his Jordan box or whatever. So he's ready to go. All right. And then we get him suited and booted. All right. So he loves Jordan. We give him the number 23 jersey. We put him in baseball pants. He's fired up. Right. So we go to the game. We play terrible, okay? Yeah. But the whole time is Reggie is sitting in the dugout the entire time. We play terrible, okay? We get our butt kicked this night, and he's sitting there and he's like this the entire time. He's smiling, having a good time, you know, like he's living the dream, right? So anyway, he goes. We get done. We drive back. We get our butts kicked. Back. We play bad. We get on the bus, we go home. We get home about 2 a.m., right? And he comes in, and like, you know, me and the coaches are mad. We're tired. It's 2 a.m., you know, and we're trying to get everything in the locker room. And Reggie's just kind of bouncing around. That's what he kind of does. He like big smile, just kind of bounces around. There's always good vibes, you know. And I'm kind of mad. He's like, hey, Coach Gillum. And I'm like, what, Reg? And he goes, you a stud. That's one of the jokes that me and the coaches have now. It's just out of nowhere. We're all pissed off. We lost. We're tired. It's 2 a.m. And he's bouncing around. He's like, hey, Coach Gillum. And I'm like, what do you got, Reg? And he's like, you a stud. And I'm like, I don't feel like a stud right now. We just got our brains beat in after this game. And then he's like, he throws on me. He says, hey, Coach Gillum, I want to make Reginade next game. And I'm like, dude, what? And he's like, I want to make Reginade. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, that's my special juice. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me you've got a special juice and you didn't make it before this game tonight and we just got absolutely throttled? Like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, all right, you got it. Next game, you're making Reginade. So he makes Reginade. I've got videos on Twitter of him making it up. And so he would take it on the road, and he'd make it. And he's got a sign now. We've got a sign, a banner now, that says, Reginade, the drink of the Savannah Bananas. It's this big, we hang it up in the dugout. He's stirring this. If you can imagine having the Gatorade jug, and he's just stirring this stuff, right? So I'm like, Reggie, what's in that? What's in Reginade? What do you got? What's the recipe of that? Secret, coach, can't tell you. It's a secret. And I'm like, come on, Reg, I ain't going to tell anybody. Come on, big dog, tell me. And he's like, all right, but you can't tell nobody, okay? And I'm like, all right, secret between me and you. What do you got, Reg? And he's like, all right, what's in there is water, Powerade, and ice.
That's
And he's staring at me like he just, solved cancer, like he's got this look on his face like this is it, boys. And like I just, you can't help but laugh. But he makes it every game. He's fired up. Love the guy to death. But that's what we talk about. Like, hey, I brought him to so many road games because, we might go on the road. There's nobody in the stands. And, it's humidity's out the wazoo. Guys are tired because we played 7 days in a row. And, they might have to create some energy. But if you have Reggie around, like he brings so much. He's an energy giver through and through. Like, you can't show up to the field and not laugh and smile. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. Rain, sleet, snow, 115 degrees. He's got a great day for baseball, boys. Hey, it's a great day for baseball. And everybody knows Reggie around the Bananas, and it was kind of us kind of messing around like, Reggie, you're a legend. Everybody knows you. And he goes, yep, I'm the legend, baby. So he's got a belt now that says legend on it. And he's going to have they'll build him a statue before it's all said and done. I'm telling you, he's the man.
Oh my gosh, God, that is unreal. This is unbelievable. Getting this inside look into Banana Land. All right, now I want to, and I know we're getting close on time here. I want to now open this book on you and where you're at right now. How does a guy, hard-nosed, tough as nails, been having all the expectations that you've had, grown up on the expectations from Coach Collins and then Coach Myers and that toughness and having to fight your way through all this. And then you've got all these values of toughness, discipline, and all this. And then you take those things, and I'm sure those are things you want in your players. And then you go to an open setting like this for the summer team. And how do you marry those two? How do you do that? Because I think that's the secret that's kind of a secret sauce of coaching these days is marrying all those old school traditions and philosophies with now working with young college baseball players.
Yeah, so going into it, knowing what Jesse wanted to create and entertain the fans, and what I wanted to do is develop baseball players and win, is I had to come up with something where we could be in the moment at all times. So I created a saying called flip the switch. So we've got T-shirts made that say flip the switch on them. And so the definition of flipping the switch is going from moment to moment throughout your life and trying to be where your feet are. That's really what it is. So where we flip the switch is from the entertainment side to the baseball side. And the script I was telling you about that we have every single night in our locker room from 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock it's color coded in yellow and red. So yellow is all of the banana entertainment things that we have on the script, and red is all the baseball things. Okay, so they know when basically they have to flip the switch from going from one person or one thing to the other, from entertainment to baseball. And so we've created that environment of being able to do that. And I think that's where it's been successful from the standpoint of like, maybe you get guys in that don't want to do a lot of the entertainment stuff. Like definitely they're outside of their comfort zone. And maybe it's not, they're too cool to do it sometimes. When you start creating the vision and the picture of like, hey, our goal is to be the best summer baseball team in the country on every single level. And then I just start being vulnerable, and I just try to lead by example from that standpoint. If you get on YouTube and you watch all the videos, like I'll be right in the front doing all the videos. I'm not going to, like, we do probably 3 or 4 videos every single year, either parodies of movies or music videos. Like last year it was the Old Town Road video, and I was riding a horse and in boots, and that's kind of how the whole boots thing started. But the year before we did Backstreet's Back, but it was Bananas Are Back. So I'm lip singing. We're in the shower as a team. And like, you're doing all of these things where you're getting outside of your comfort zone, but that's what the flip the switch is. But you create a vision of like, hey, my life goal, guys, I'm just being honest with you, is to impact as many people as I can. I want to impact 1 million people through baseball education and exercise. And this is a big piece of that. And this is, and I just try to paint the picture for them. This is how we're going to do that. We're going to interact. We're going to connect with fans. But when it's baseball time, we're going to flip the switch and we're going to get after it. And some of that mentality starts with, we're going to have a lot of fun, but we're going to compete too. So where I think the players that I've loved to coach and the players that I think can win the most when games are on the line, they perform in high-pressure situations, are guys that are tough, but they can keep their calm in the moment. So if you're having fun and you're not putting all this pressure on yourself, right, from all these expectations, then you're going to perform better in the moment in those pressure situations. So we're going to compete our butt off, but we're also going to have the most fun. And I think that's where the whole culture of winning has stemmed from. Jesse's always had a saying that players play better in a banana uniform. And we didn't have any stats behind that necessarily or proof behind that. We just always believed that. Mm-hmm. And there was a professor at Georgia Southern this past year that actually did a scientific study, did a research project to try to prove us wrong. He kind of went in to say, like, Jesse's full of crap. That's not true. I'm going to do this research project to see if it's true. And what ended up happening, he correlated all the other teams, too, in the Coastal Plain League, and he compared those stats, those player stats in the league, our league, to their school stats. And he looked at all those stats, and every team had a close correlation, like a really close correlation, that there wasn't much difference. But the Bananas stats that came out of it were way better than everybody else's. And from the statistics piece, they tell the story a lot better. There's a YouTube video that tells the entire story, and they go into the statistic data of it. But it proves that players play better when they put on a banana uniform, and I think that's because they play free and they play loose and they play relaxed. And I've always believed that the guys that play the best, they just play with their hair on fire and they're relaxed and free. They're not worried about screwing up. And then on top of that, that's where my base running system, the green light special, where we give guys freedom to run all the time. We just try to create the environment where they can grow, educate them, and then empower the player to make the right decision. So that's kind of a philosophy of mine, of create the environment, educate them the best that you possibly can, and then empower them to make the right decisions and play free and take the handcuffs off. So, that's kind of the whole stem of it. But, that's kind of how we do it in Banana
Awesome.
Land, man.
True, boy, that is unbelievable. All right, talking a little bit about your mission and your vision, your goal, okay? And you actually mentioned earlier how you like to take these big telescope goals, right? And, leave it to Tyler Gillum to, not want to impact 1,000 people or 5,000 people, but you want to impact, small 1 million people through health, physical education, and the game of baseball, right? I mean, initially when I read that and I saw this about you and heard you talk about it, I was like, how the heck, I wonder how he's going to track that. But over your shoulder, I can kind of see, I'm guessing 84 people is not where you're at.
If you can actually, I don't know if you can read that or not.
I see the million.
Yeah, so this, in January 1st, 2017, I wrote that. And it hasn't moved from that. It hasn't moved from that whiteboard. So at that time, I wanted to do it. It was a yearly goal, was have a positive impact on 1 million people by December 31st. So that was my first initial goal. And then I tried to start defining it a little bit more. And that's where education, exercise, and baseball came in. And then I wanted to create a one word that would get me towards that, and that would be action, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was my best one word, would be action, to try to get to that goal. And so when I first came up with that, I wanted to set a goal that was way out of my comfort zone, something so, like, I love outrageous goals, and I think it's something that stemmed just through my life with everybody saying, like, you can't do it. Like, you guys aren't going to win state championship in baseball. You're not going to go to Seminole and be able to play. You're not going to be able to, do whatever, like I just like thrive off of that. I absolutely love that. And then so a couple things happened that kind of, I think that are big stepping stones to get to that goal. Was in the summer of 2016, I was coaching in the Texas Collegiate League for the Brazos Valley Bombers, and I was driving home from College Station, Texas to Pheonix. It's about 16 hours, okay? And I'm listening to music on the way, and it ends up being like I get tired of listening to music. And I didn't really know. So I look on my phone, and I see this purple button, and it's podcasts, right? And so I click on this purple button, and I just start going through there, and I just start like, I'm going to start listening to some podcasts on the way home instead of music, since I'm tired of listening to music right now. And one of the first ones I found was Entree Leadership. It's Dave Ramsey's podcast. You might have heard of it.
Love it. I've actually, Dave Ramsey changed my life.
Phenomenal. So he pretty much changed my life because of that podcast, I'm telling you. Because I got connected with leaders that I probably wouldn't have been connected to in any other way. And so I started hearing all these people tell a story. And there was a story of a business guy that said, if you want to get what you want, you got to help everybody get what they want. So he said, when I was in this business, whatever business he was in, he said, my goal to start was I wanted to make $1 million. And he said, until I flipped my thought process and said, I want to impact 1 million people. He said, until my thought process changed, and I had to rewire my brain to impact 1 million people, I never made $1 million. So I always thought of it as in, like, if I want to get to where I want to go, and, I want to see if I can impact 1 million people. And I still don't know, like, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know, like, I don't know how I'm going to calculate that. But when I first started talking about it, I said, I will know when it happens, it will show up somehow. Like, it will be presented to me somehow that it has happened. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but somehow it's going to pop up and go, yep, you can check that box now. So it started as a yearly goal, and, now it's like, okay, this has got to get more realistic. I've got to, this is more of a life goal. And so, and that's I just try one day at a time, just try to hook up with one person at a time every single day. If somebody wants to have me on their podcast, I don't care who it is, I'll make time for it, because hopefully I can impact one person with my story, whatever that is. And if I can do one every single day, eventually, somehow, 1 million's going to pop up. So it's just kind of just trying to get 1% better every single day, lay a perfect brick every single day, and eventually, this awesome wall will be built, I guess. That's just kind of my thought process on it.
Well, I don't think there's any better way to wrap this up. I will tell you, you laid a perfect brick on this interview, and you definitely have impacted me. And I truly appreciate your time, and I'm thankful for you and grateful for you, returning that email.
Oh man.
So
I appreciate you having me on, Mark. This is fun, man. You might have only done 3 podcasts so far, but I'm gonna tell you what, nobody's ever got some of these stories out of me. So you did a phenomenal job on that standpoint, man. I'm pumped to be here.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you very much, and best of luck. Hopefully the summer happens, and then good luck to you with South Mountain Community College down the road as well.
Same, brother. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully we can connect in the future. Come up and watch a Bananas game this summer if we're able to kick that season off. And if I can ever do anything for you, let me know, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome.